In today's video, I, Paracosm, aka a complete noob to the fandom, will be drawing a couple scenes from the recent hit web series, The Amazing Digital Circus. In this video, my drawings will have a little bit of a creepy tone and/or atmosphere, as you can tell from the intro. Sorry, I got a little carried away. So if you're sensitive to stuff like that, maybe this isn't the video for you. However, it's really not too bad though, I promise. With that being said, let's dive into some art as we discuss some first impressions, shall we? Okay, so if you've been following me and my YouTube content for a bit now, then you know this is a little different from my usual style of video. In the past, I've made a lot of art pertaining to Nintendo games, which I still plan on doing, but I also want to broaden my content to include other things that interest me. So here we are. I actually never even heard of Amazing Digital Circus until literally about a week ago when the third episode dropped. I saw it pop up in my YouTube recommendations and I was shocked to see such a high view count for such a fresh video. Naturally, I clicked the link and from the first scene I knew I was in for an interesting ride. What stood out to me instantly was the show's production quality. The models and environments were super polished and the animation was extremely smooth. So I watched the third episode for a few minutes and decided to check out the channel as a whole. Then to my absolute shock, I saw that the first episode has over 350 million views and the second with a whopping 120 million. At that moment, it was clear I was definitely missing out on something big, so I exited out of episode 3, The Mystery of Mildenhall Manor, and started at the very beginning with episode 1, the pilot. After watching the first episode, you can say I was definitely intrigued. My favorite aspects of the show would have to be the world building. I felt like the atmosphere was so well constructed, it was as if I was inside a liminal space from a 2005 PC game. The character designs themselves were also pretty strong. I enjoy how strangely unique each member feels. My favorite probably being Kinger because he makes me laugh the most. As for this drawing here, if you've seen episode 3, then you'll know exactly what I'm illustrating. There's a scene where Pomni somehow gets possessed by who knows what and becomes demented and evil. It honestly caught me off guard when I saw this. I mean, there were little hints to creepy undertones in the previous 2 episodes, but episode 3 really took it there. And honestly, I love that. I'm here for it. I love creepy and disturbing things. So in the context of this illustration, if you look closely at Pomni's clothes, you might notice something peculiar. In her original character design, her jester outfit has lots of blue and red stripes, akin to a traditional circus tent. In my illustration, I chose to draw the possessed Pomni as completely red and normal Pomni as completely blue. Okay, now stick with me because this might get a little convoluted, but I find it fun to theorize and give lore to some of my pieces. To explain my reasoning, we'll have to look back at Pomni's character throughout the show. She's usually depicted as full of anxiety and anger. She's anxious and scared because she's been dropped in a foreign world with people she can't relate to, feeling isolated and alone in a wild digital landscape. On the other hand, Pomni expresses deep dissatisfaction with her inability to escape the circus. In episode 1, she desperately tries to leave, only to realize her efforts are futile against Kane's omnipresence. The final shots show her twitching with anger. In addition to feeling trapped within the digital prison that is the circus, Pomni feels emotionally oppressed, being afraid to exert too much emotion for fear of abstraction, as seen with Cosmo in episode 1. To personify these feelings of anger and fear, I split Pomni's two-tone clothing into 2 separate outfits. The red, evil and/or possessed Pomni is illustrated as a giant, while the blue, anxious and scared Pomni is miniature, easily fitting into the former's hand. This size difference emphasizes her feelings of rage and how they're starting to overpower her fear of her surroundings. As a small detail, I drew the little balls on the tips of the red Pomni's hat as the beginning stages of abstractions, as in the really pointy little ball things, symbolizing their emotional connections. Drawing this piece was a fun challenge for me due to its dynamic composition. Having the giant Pomni's arm extending from the background to the foreground was a little bit tricky to illustrate. I don't really have much practice doing scenes like this, but I hope it looks alright in the end. So that's the piece all complete. Let me know your thoughts on this piece in the comments below. Hopefully it's not too creepy looking. If you'd like a 4K digital download of this drawing and the next drawing I'll do in this video, then check out my Patreon in the video description. Alright, let's move on to the next drawing. I kinda wanted this piece to be tied to the former in some way. The inspiration for this illustration came from episode 2, when Pomni has an intense nightmare that she's already started the abstraction process, with one of her arms completely amorphous, black and glitching. Alone and afraid, she's pulled down into the dark, bellowing vault, appearing as if she's floating in the middle of outer space or at the bottom of a lifeless ocean. I intentionally drew Pomni in the same completely red outfit as the giant in the first piece. Obviously, she's a lot smaller here, but I was kinda thinking that maybe this was the moments leading up to her transformation into the possessed demon in the first piece. In my own alternate universe of sorts, that is. She's pictured falling into a black pit with dozens of multicolored eyes gazing upon her in the distance. These eyes can symbolize many things. Since she's part of this digital circus, after all, they could illustrate the onlooking crowd of people watching her and her gang's adventures, and/or performances in a sense. They could also mirror Pomni's feelings of anxiety and paranoia due to lack of privacy. Cain did say that he would keep his hundreds of all-seeing eyes on her at all times. Lastly, I think the eyes could be literal, belonging to the past characters who abstracted and just populate the walls of the deep cellar. As you can see, instead of black rushing waves as pictured in the first episode when Cosmo was sent to the cellar, I illustrated a giant blue eye at the bottom of the pit. This to me seemed like it could serve as a portal of sorts, having Pomni fall directly into the widened pupil, undergoing a complete transformation into the demon present in the first drawing. This piece was a lot simpler to make compared to the previous one due to its clear back and foreground. However, I think the simplicity adds to the cinematic quality of the drawing. The spotlight from the top of the frame illuminating Pomni and the giant eyeball could also allude to the whole circus performance idea. All in all, I enjoyed drawing this. Let me know what you think of these two pieces and if you found my analysis of Pomni's character to be at all interesting. Thank you so much for watching today's video. As I said, I'm literally a complete newbie to the Amazing Digital Circus. I really don't know all the lore behind this show, as I'm sure there's lots. I just only scratched the surface here. So let me know if you'd like me to continue to make art for this awesome show in the future. If this is your first time ever watching a video of mine, welcome. I urge you to please check out my other content if you enjoyed this. Shout out to my lovely patrons and channel members. You guys are amazing, as are all of you watching now. Remember, everything is temporary. Live life to the fullest, my friends. I'll catch you in the next video. Much love, Paracosm.